Hi guys, so what I'm going to try to do in this video is kind of walk you through the process of completing an assignment, but most of all, kind of how to read the questions so that you are able to understand what they're asking for and try to get the best answer possible. So what I'm gonna do for this one is I created a student account that I can log into. So I'm gonna be showing you what you see basically when you log into your account. And I'm gonna be using the first assignment that I gave you for this, which is the mother and daughter um, by Gary Soto. Okay, so what I've done here is basically I've already read the story and done the guiding questions. So if you notice, all of my story is there now, right? I've already read through it. I've answered the guiding questions. So all of my text is showing up on the screen, okay? Obviously, as you see, these little numbers here, and I'm sorry if, I don't know if you're able to see, I hope you can, but these are also little ways that will help you. So this is obviously giving you the definition of that word. And so those are all tools that will help you to understand the story better, read it carefully. Also, if you notice, it has this read aloud option. So if it helps you to hear the story as you're reading it, this tool will come in very handy. So if you notice, it actually reads it to you. You click on read aloud, and then you click basically play.
Mother and Daughter by Gary Soto, 1990. Gary Soto is an American poet, novelist, and memoirist.
So, I mean, I don't know, maybe for some of you, you might think, oh, no, thank you, I'd rather not have somebody read it to me. But it's, I think, a useful tool for some of us who do like to be able to hear it as we read it, okay? You can also, if you're using a laptop or a desktop, you also have the opportunity to highlight and annotate, okay? Now, like I mentioned, I've already read the story through and I've done the guiding questions, so that's helpful. See, this is my annotation box here because I clicked on annotate. So you can select text to highlight or add annotations. And let's say, oh, well, this is something that I want to come back to later. Sorry, but I'm using one hand, so I apologize if it's not the most helpful. I can choose the color. Let's say, oh, I want to highlight it in blue. And so I know that that's something that I'm going to come back to later, maybe for notes or for one of my questions. Remember, as you're reading, make sure that you are taking notes in your graphic organizer. So now, once you've done all that, then you have the assessment questions, okay? Now, I know that some of these can be a little tricky, and so we really have to read the questions carefully to understand what they're asking. So for this story, for example, right, the first question, if you notice, it says part A. So you know there's going to be a follow-up question to this. You have to be really careful with these because if it's a two-part question and you get the first part wrong, then it automatically counts the second part wrong as well. And so you're missing two questions in one, okay? So the question says, part A, how does the plot develop the theme of the story? Now, if you notice, I already have an answer on there because I've already completed this assignment and I returned it. So this is what you see when I return an assignment for you to redo. The only thing is that it'll show you the answer you put, but it doesn't tell you if it's wrong or right. And that's just the way the system is set up, okay? But for this question, it's asking us, how does the plot develop the theme of the story? So the main suggestion I would have here is, in order to be able to answer this, you have to know what is the theme of this story. And we talked about theme as the main idea, the lesson that we learn, the what is the main idea that the author is trying to get across with this story. What is the lesson that the author wants us to learn with this story? And so for this particular story, which is Mother and Daughter by Gary Soto, if you notice, the theme was about being grateful for what you have, and being grateful for the sacrifices that parents make for us, and not relying on looks or material things, but on family and love, which is more important. So once I identify my theme, then I can go back and say, well, how does the plot develop that theme? The plot is what the events in the story. How do the events in this story help to develop this theme? So if you read through your answers, make sure you read all 4 options before you choose one, okay? So in this case, I've identified my theme as being grateful for what you have and for what your parents do for you. And so my answer is that the plot develops the theme because despite the unfortunate events at the dance, Yoli realizes that her mother does her best to make her happy. So I'm going to choose B, and I'm going to put save and next. So as I told you, the second part is now a follow-up question of number 1. So part B asks, which detail from the text best supports the answer to part A? So if I'm saying that despite all the unfortunate events, Yoli realizes that her mother does a lot for her, which one of these supports that answer? Okay, and they tell you even the paragraph where it's at, so if you wanted to go back into the story and read again, you can, and the paragraph numbers are right here, so you can always refer back to that. Okay, so based on my answer in part A, I believe that the fact that Yoli tossed her 17 on the bed, the magazine, she was embarrassed at last night's tirade, but it wasn't her mother's fault that they were poor, is the one that best supports the first part. So I click on that and I go to my next one. Okay, now question 3, again, part A. So that tells you that there's going to be a follow-up question, so you have to make sure that you get this part right so that you can get the second one right as well. Okay, so this one asks, how does Mrs. Moreno's view of money change by the end of the story? So what happens at the end of the story? I have to remember, or I can go back and go back to the end of the story if I need to. Okay, sorry, this is kind of weird. It's the first time I record a video like this, so I hope you guys can understand what I'm doing here. So we go back and we remember, oh yeah, Mrs. Moreno took out some of the money she had been saving and she bought some clothes for Yolanda because she's gonna go on a date. So her view of money changes at the end of the story because she's willing to spend money as long as it makes Yoli happy. At the beginning, she didn't buy her a new dress for the 8th grade dance, but by the end of the story, she realizes that it's more important that her daughter is happy than to have money. So I clicked on A and save and next. So now this is the follow-up question to that question that I just answered. Part B, which detail from the text best supports the answer to part A? So I'm saying that the mom, Mrs. Moreno's view of money changed because she's willing to spend money at the end. So I have to read each one of these options and see which one is my best option. And I look, and this, for me, D is my best option. I've been saving a little money every month, said Mrs. Moreno, for you, mija. So that one supports the fact that she is now willing to spend money on Yolanda. So I click D, save, and next. Okay. Now the last question. This is the answer I originally wrote when I answered this. It's asking you reread the sentence. The dye was falling from her dress like black tears in paragraph 29. How does the simile contribute to the tone of the story? So I wrote a simple answer, but I'm talking about the simile. A simile, remember, we got to go back and remember, well, what's a simile? It's comparing two things that are different using the words like or as. So the simile is comparing the dye falling from her dress to black tears. So how does this simile contribute to the tone of the story? So simply I wrote, the black dye running from the dress is compared to her tears as she realizes what is happening. This contributes to the sad and somber tone of the story. So the tone of the story is not necessarily happy. It's not joyful. It's kind of sad because Yolanda realizes that they're very poor and her mother works very hard. So it's kind of a sad and somber tone. So this simile kind of, it reiterates that tone. So once I've written that in, now notice when I return your assignments for redo, it'll tell you here the grade I already gave you. This is the only question that I grade myself. So if you notice, if you already have a 4 out of 4, then you want to leave that answer alone. If I give you less than a 4, then maybe you want to go back and complete your answer to get a 4 out of 4. Okay? Once you're done, you hit save and next, and then you submit your assignment. And if you're sure of your answers, if you're pretty sure, then you go ahead and submit your assignment. So I know it's a little challenging because you have to read the text very carefully, but I think where some of us are having some issues is with the questions and exactly what are they asking for. So you have to be very careful when you read your questions. What are they asking me? Are they asking me for the tone? Are they asking me the plot, similes? Read your questions carefully before you answer them. Okay? So I hope this helps you in some way. I hope so anyway. If there's any questions, you can always email me. If there's any assignments that you need to redo, let me know. Send me an email or send me a message on Google Classroom so I can return them to you and you can go back and redo them and improve your grades. All right. Thank you.